Hello and welcome to the show, Adrian. It's a pleasure to have you with us on Travel Insights.
Hey, thanks for having us. It's good to get some company.
Great to have you on. So, to kick things off, your business is the first and only one of its kind, which is incredible. For those that might not know, what does Melbourne Street Art Tours offer and how have you claimed this one and only title?
It's interesting because Melbourne Street Tours offers a unique experience in the sense that all of our tour guides are artists. And at the end of the tours, you get to come back to the Blender Studios, which is this studio where I'm sitting right now. And I can take you for a quick spin in a little while. But basically, it's this functioning in sort of hidden space, which is very important for Melbourne culture. And unless you come on the tour, you wouldn't otherwise get to see this and or meet the artists.
That's awesome. And you say that the tour guides are artists.
Yeah, so all the tour guides are street artists. That's one of the rules. That way everyone benefits off it and it becomes kind of like a utilitarian sort of project.
And that's amazing. Really
And
good to hear.
and we get to also like work with a lot of young people, and we get to like show people from overseas what our city is. You know, we get to show them the hidden, secret, smelly, stained parts of the city. You know, Melbourne, as it gentrifies, it becomes closer and closer to every other city, but it's all these hidden places around Melbourne that makes it super unique.
That's a really, really good point as well. And you mentioned that Melbourne is unique and it's street art in particular. What would you say sets it apart from the street art in other cities?
I'd say the main thing that happened was Melbourne's street art scene was unique when it started, and it started in about 1999. And it was a lot of art school kids and people who had been in the graph scene, and basically we were just putting it up on the streets, and it was very Melbourne. And it wasn't until 2005, 2006, which is when the internet started, that street art became a worldwide phenomenon. Until then, it was basically like New York, Berlin, Melbourne, Sao Paulo, and these places all had their own unique styles, which is pretty awesome. That Melbourne definitely had its own unique style, and it still does to this day.
Right, I can imagine. So you said that the internet kind of put a capsule on this art and made it more official, if you will.
Yeah, and one of the cool things about Melbourne is that it's, you know, situated with all the laneways that were built early on under the Hoddle plan. There's just laneways everywhere, and so there's all these unclaimed, unsanctioned spaces where artists can just create. And you know, when you're walking through the city, you can get lost and not know where you are, and find yourself in these interesting artistic wonderlands.
Absolutely. It seems like you guys have really made the most of that urban metropolitan space in Melbourne.
Yeah. No, I think with Melbourne, what it also sets us apart is that we were very political when we started. You know, when Stencil started, it was a way to repetitively get stuff up quickly and onto the streets. And basically, it was very political. 9/11 had happened. We just had the G20 meeting here. There was, you know, all sorts of important political things happening. And basically, it was really reflective in the art. It's changed a lot now. The street art scene's not quite as political anymore. It's what I call new muralism. It's almost like a competition to see who can do the most beautiful work, which isn't a bad thing. There's a lot of beauty out there in the laneways, that means.
That's fascinating. So it went from political to this competition for the most beautiful art. I guess Melburnians aren't
Yeah.
complaining about that.
Well, it was originally very much an underground movement that was, you know, very illicit, and people going out late at night and putting up the art. Whereas now, a lot of it's in sanctioned spaces. So I'm lucky enough to be able to set up a few laneways around Melbourne. I've set up maybe 5. I get permission and I work with the council and set up these beautiful laneways, and they're ever evolving. You know, they're always changing, and the art's changing, or then someone will buy it and build it into an apartment. I mean, Melbourne's a very aqueous space these days.
I don't doubt that at all. And you mentioned that obviously you've been granted allowance to do these works of art by the council and the local government. But we know that in some places street art is actually not allowed and is even banned. So what do you attribute these lax legislation to?
It's interesting because it's not really lax here. We've got very strict graffiti laws, and basically the graffiti laws here became stricter in 2006 with the Commonwealth Games, and they got rid of vast amount of important sort of graffiti art. But basically, the art is it's quite strict still, and that's why people aren't doing it as illicitly as they were, because us, I'm getting older now. I can't run from the police as much. Plus, most people know who I am. I'm certainly not an undercover artist anymore. But when I was, I thought it was very important part of the culture to be hidden and undercover and doing it. But nowadays, it can be life altering if a young person gets caught, especially if they're doing stuff that's graffiti based. People have more tolerance for street art, and that's because it's more beautiful. And other cities, they really do have a zero tolerance on graffiti. But in a weird way, like a used city is important. You can't just have the city looking like pristine, or it'll just look like an airport, or just like every other city. You got to have the stains of time to make it look beautiful. And Melbourne's got so many beautiful, awesome stains and graffiti and marks. It's just amazing. It smells.
Absolutely, I don't doubt it. That is a very good point as well. It's much better than a pristine city, which doesn't have much cultural value at all. So, knowing that, would you say that the street art in Melbourne is more like the heart of Melbourne's art scene rather than some of the well-known art museums?
Street art's kind of been its own worst enemy in Melbourne because it was so big. When it became popular, it really changed the landscape of the city. And the laneways really did become the cultural veins of a city that fast became really famous all over the world. And then people started moving here. Artists started coming from interstate, New Zealand, and what meant that the quality of art here was awesome. But then, people started coming to study. Melbourne became a big international and cool city. And as a result of that, all the cool places, all the hidden laneways, a lot of them have gone now because we've had to build these big giant skyscrapers to fit all these people in. So in a weird way, I think the gentrification of Melbourne is largely due to the urban art movement, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Well, now with COVID, the city's really changing. So hopefully we'll get back some of our city and have a less decentralised creative community in Melbourne.
Very well said. And that sounds like something that Melburnians and tourists alike will be able to enjoy when the city opens up post-COVID. Now, just before we wrap up, what's something that our audience might not know about Melbourne's mesmerising street art? Do you have anything to share?
It's interesting because I was thinking about this. What is something that people wouldn't know about Melbourne's street art? I can't think of anything right now, but
maybe they'll have to see it
if you're just walking through the street. Sorry, mate?
Maybe they'll have to see it in person, right? See it to believe it?
Well, in the end, there's so many stories, so many hidden things. As you're going through the laneways, there's tiny sculptures, there's paste-ups, there's tags, there's murals, there's people that have altered statues. There's so many hidden things and so much history now that street art's been such an important part of Melbourne for 20 years that I wouldn't even know where to start. I certainly made my splash when I did. I painted the whole of Hosier Lane, which is Melbourne's most famous lane. I painted it all baby blue, a colour I call empty nursery blue, and I turned it into a giant empty swimming pool. And got myself into a fair bit of trouble doing that. But urban art and art, it's not meant to make friends. It's meant to make a difference. It's easy to be controversial, but it's hard to be controversial and good.
Very well said, I must say. And I've actually seen that. It's very, very distinguishing colour you've added. Looks very incredible, and it's a very nice touch as well to the space. Now, just before we go,
I painted my parents' house that colour.
Oh, well. Before we go, maybe could you pan your screen around? Can we see some of the art behind you?
Well, this is, I'll walk slow so that because
that's
I know that it's a
incredible.
little bit blurry. But you
Wow.
can see here, this is a beautiful wall. In here's our gallery. I'll put you at the front. So
That's
at the moment, we've
incredible.
got an exhibition, but it's all been hidden, and because we're all in lockdown, obviously. And you can see here, there's each space here, and a really important part of the Blender philosophy is that all the spaces are left open. And so you can see here, everyone's spaces are open, and everyone's really proud to be part of Blender. They all sort of make an agreement or sign a contract of sorts saying that they'll work hard. And that creates a really important atmosphere. Hey, Matt, how are you? Say hi to the people at home.
Hello.
Matt's just sitting
Hello.
here making art. He's within his 5 kilometres. And
That looks
and you
amazing.
can see here, so, yeah, and I'll spin around quickly to the other end. And we have an amazing laneway, which I'm pretty certain you guys won't have time to see today, but we've it's one of the best laneways in Melbourne now. We've slowly got it up, and we've had to move out the city, but we're just a little bit out of the city. We're at Flagstaff Station in the city loop. This
That's
is Craig.
incredible.
Hey, Craig.
Amazing
Well, Craig's
visuals
painting
there.
this. It's super great.
Oh, thanks for showing us that. That looks absolutely terrific. We got a little sneak
You
peek.
can see some of his other paintings. So he's very influenced by urban art, but very much is a fine artist working in an oil paint. And that's
That looks
what's so
absolutely
interesting
awesome.
about it. And this space definitely has that mixture of fine artists and street artists. And this is a stencil artist here. And this is my space. It's one of my paintings here.
Wow.
That's what
Look at
happened.
that.
And these are some
Oh,
birds.
that
I
looks
just finished.
just terrific.
There's a piano that we did for the Paint Me On Yours. So we did 22 pianos with different community groups. And sold it. And you see this is made by Junkie Projects. He gets the stuff off the laneways, the paint, and makes jewelry out of it. And you can see all the different layers. It's pretty awesome stuff.
Incredible. That does look super
But that's
cool.
half of Blender Studios, guys, and that gives you a bit of an idea of what I do and
Or you've
what
got a
life
very
is
big space
here.
there.
It's pretty awesome. I'm pretty lucky.
That is very awesome, and you are lucky. Thanks so much for showing that to us. That mini tour was really special. It's just about time to wrap up now, but I've got to say thanks so much for joining us today. It's been so good to have you with us.
Thank you so much.